Okay, so in my last video, I predicted that Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi would indeed go to Taiwan despite the Chinese government warning her not to do so. And despite what they said, the Chinese government wouldn't take any sort of military action on account of that happening. Well, I was mostly correct. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, she went to Taiwan. But I would hardly say that the Chinese government and military had no reaction to that whatsoever. They didn't do a lot, but they're doing something, and that ain't nothing. Right now, they're doing military drills with their Navy. You know, they got their ships circling around the island of Taiwan, firing off their guns, their rockets, their missiles into the ocean. They're basically harassing Taiwan, but they're not actually attacking them. Also, they've cut off some trade going to Taiwan. They've sanctioned Nancy Pelosi and her family. And they've cut off ties to the United States. They're not going to talk to us about climate change or their military or anything, right? So, yeah, there were some consequences to Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan. And there might be more. This might keep escalating. You know, the Chinese government, they might decide to, you know, run an embargo against the United States or, you know, give us some high tariffs. They're going to try and attack us economically, is what I'm saying, instead of, you know, using the military. Now, if that happens, should we blame Nancy Pelosi for it? Well, realistically, I would say no. The Chinese government, they're deciding to be assholes, and that should be on them. But if you look at this through the eyes of political theater, which Nancy is a queen of, then yes, this is very much her fault. You know, people warned her about going to Taiwan, saying, hey, you go there, there could be consequences for everyone because of your actions. And all she had to say is, no, nobody tells me what to do. I'm Nancy Pelosi. And she went to Taiwan and this happened. Like I said, if you just look at through it with that sort of vapid, empty way of thinking, political theater, then yeah, she deserves all the shit that she's going to get.
Chosen to introduce these four goddesses. I'm so honored to do this. Let's chat a little bit about their incredible repertoire of music. How about this one? 14 hours.
Okay, so in my last video, I said that if you look at things through the eyes of political theater, which Nancy Pelosi is quite the queen of, that vapid mentality, that one-dimensional way of thinking, that she is to blame for the problems that we and Taiwan are having with China right now. She went and visited Taiwan, and that's what got this all started. And who knows where it's going. One thing that I forgot to mention, because I didn't have a lot of time, is that visit of hers to Taiwan, the catalyst that got it all going, completely pointless. It served no purpose whatsoever. Something that first could have been done over a Zoom meeting. She didn't actually have to go to Taiwan to do basically what she did there. And the speeches that she gave were both incoherent and inconsequential. All right, and that's what I want to focus on, the inconsequential, is that she basically went there and said, hey, nothing has changed. We're going to keep doing the same thing we're always doing when it comes to Taiwan. We're going to promise to defend you. And that was it. There was nothing new. There was no real reason she needed to go to Taiwan to say that nothing had changed. Because nothing had changed. We're not going to put an embassy in Taiwan. We're not going to put any military installations in Taiwan. We're not going to have our Navy constantly patrolling around Taiwan. We're not going to give them any more money or any more weapons. And we're not, and this is key, going to recognize Taiwan as an independent nation. All of these things would have, amounted to a change, and that would have been a reason for her to go there. But none of that happened. So why did she even need to go to Taiwan to do that? Once again, grandstanding, virtue signaling, political theater. She might have had some other business on the side. I won't even get into that. But basically, it was a completely pointless endeavor to begin with. And now we're all going to be facing consequences on account of it. Oh, and speaking of defending Taiwan, shouldn't we be doing that right now? Because the Chinese military is circling around their island, firing up the guns and the missiles and rockets into the ocean, harassing Taiwan, yet we're nowhere to be found. So what's going on? Does Taiwan not want us there? Or are we not going there? Because it seems that we're so key to defending Taiwan, we should be moving in right about now. No, it ain't LeBron James. Try again. Who, according to the candy company that makes them, were Baby Ruths named after? I want their proper name, too. Okay, all you pretentious centrists and mediocre Democrats. Let's get this straight. I don't like you, you don't like me, and I don't like you. But we've got to work together to make sure that the Republicans don't take power in November. So every week, we're going to have a little strategy meeting, figure out some ideas how we can best win in November. All right? And then we can go back to hating one another. Is it a deal? All right, this is the first strategy meeting. We're going to discuss how we can best beat the Republicans in November. All right? Ideas? I got one. Let's make sure we get DeJoy fired. You know, Louis DeJoy, Postmaster Louis DeJoy. We don't want that guy fucking around with the mail-in votes in November. So we got to get him fired. Now, that should have happened today. The Board of Governors for the Post Office met, and they could have fired him today. They got 5 nominees from our president. But as I'm recording it, it doesn't look like that happened. Like DeJoy was not fired today like he could have been and should have been. So we got to get in touch with their man Joe and say, hey, Joe, tell your nominees they're supposed to fire this guy like you told them. Because you did tell them that, right, President Biden, that they were supposed to fire DeJoy before you nominated them? You made sure that they were on board with the fire DeJoy train? Because we got to get rid of DeJoy for a lot of reasons, including mail-in ballots. So please tell me you told them they needed to fire DeJoy, Mr. President. All right, so I've been on Twitter, and I see a lot of people tweeting about this Judge Reinhardt. That's the guy who signed off on the warrant so the FBI could raid Mar-a-Lago, right? A lot of the Trumpers, they're mad with this Judge Reinhardt, and they got some plans they want to enact. Well, listen here. I don't know this Judge Reinhardt, but I've seen enough to know he ain't the kind of guy you want to mess with. Take a look at this picture of Judge Reinhardt. You see it? You see it right there? The man's got double-stuffed golden Oreos in Kentucky whiskey. Why? Because he's going to dunk his double-stuffed golden Oreos in that Kentucky whiskey. That's not the type of person you want to fuck around with. Someone who dunks double-stuffed golden Oreos in Kentucky whiskey? No, sir. Those are crazy people. They're local for Fruit Loops. You don't want to mess with Judge Reinhardt if he's dunking his golden stuffed Oreos in Kentucky whiskey. You mess with him, your innards are going to be on the outside. You're going to be killed 6 ways to Wednesday, all right? Don't mess with that guy. Welcome to the 555 phone book, where we find 555 phone numbers in TV and films and put them in our 555 phone book. Okay, today's 555 phone book comes from a Visa ad starring Regina King. Now, I do apologize for the quality of this, but in this ad, we can see that Regina gets herself locked out of the house. She calls the locksmith. The locksmith shows up with his van, and on it is a 555 phone number. Okay, there you go. Another 555 phone number for our phone book. Welcome to the 555 phone book, where we find 555 phone numbers in movies and television and put them in our 555 phone book. Okay, today we have a very rare 555 phone number. It comes from a forgotten TV show and called The Random Years. Here it is.
Call me 555-0198.
All right, I'd like to thank fellow TikTok creator Mrs. Eric Matthews for this clip. This TV show, like I said, it was forgotten, so it's very hard to find anything from it. So thank you for uploading this clip. Well, welcome to the 555 phone book, where we find 555 phone numbers and films and television and put them in our 555 phone book. All right, so in my last video, I was talking about how I watched the original Fast and the Furious movie. Well, I came across 3 555 numbers in Fast and the Furious. The first one comes from one of the trucks that they're hijacking. It's one of those blink and you'll miss it moments, but I slowed it down to get the number. All right, the second one is on a truck too. This is the one that Paul Walker's character is driving around. You know, he's undercover, so he's pretending to work at an auto parts shop, drives the company truck around, and there's a 555 phone number on it. Okay, finally, we have the phone number for Dom Toretto's character. It was a plot point in the movie where they have to get the cell phone number so they could trace his cell phone. And wouldn't you know it, it's a 555 phone number.
323-555-6439.
All right, 3 through the road. What more could you ask for? Join us next time on the 555 phone book. Okay, so I'm taking a break from watching and reviewing Fast and Furious movies to go watch some movies in the theaters tonight. One of them was Bullet Train. Now, this movie is about a group of assassins, professional assassins, who all end up on the same bullet train, this really fast train in Japan, and they fight over this briefcase filled with money, and other situations arise. I really did enjoy this film. I thought it was quick-paced, action-packed, pretty witty. I thought the cast gave great performances. You had Brad Pitt, the main star, basically playing himself, but that's all right. You had Joey King. She plays this absolute sociopath. That was pretty surprising coming from her. I don't think I've ever seen her play a character like that before. Great job there. They had these two brother characters called Tangerine and Lemon, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. I really loved the chemistry they had. I liked the how they utilized the train in fight sequences and whatnot. And all around, I just really enjoyed this film. I usually rate my movies based on how much I paid to see them versus how much I thought they were actually worth it. I paid $10 to see this, and I think it was worth every penny, so $10 out of $10. All right, another movie I watched tonight was Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Now, this is a horror film where a group of friends get together at this mansion during a hurricane, and to pass the time, they play this game called Bodies, 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 which is this sort of murder, whodunit role-playing game where someone gets murdered and you're supposed to figure out who it is. And then, wouldn't you know it, the lights go out and people start dying off, just like in the game. I kind of got mixed feelings about this film. Going into it, I thought it was going to be a lot more comedic, which really wasn't the case, but I didn't really have too much of a problem with that. Some of the things they get right is they incorporate the game into the movie, where, it's the game is about people running around in the dark trying not to get murdered, and then later on, they got the characters running around in the dark trying not to get murdered. They really did, push the paranoia pretty good, because, basically, it's someone in the house is doing the killings, and it's one of the friends, or maybe the new girl, or the one friend who isn't there. They kind of reminded me of The Thing, so that was good. But the characters, none of them are really likable. And I've said it 100 times, you want to make a successful horror film, you have to have likable characters that you care about, and that just was not the case with these characters. And, all right, if you're going to make a movie where all the characters are terrible and you're just wanting to see them die, and I think their deaths had to be, I don't know, maybe a little more graphic or comedic. And, you know, like, there was this one character, I could not stand her. And if you watch the film, you can probably guess which one I'm talking about. The super aggressive one. And, you know, her death wasn't really that satisfying. I was really hoping it would be, but that wasn't the case. But, like I said, I don't really have too many complaints. One thing that did kind of take me out of it is wherever they were shooting this, and I'm guessing it was some hotel, at two different points you see the exit signs. Like, you know, like the exit signs in case there's a fire that light up. And this is supposed to be taking part in someone's house, right? And it's like, well, why would they have those? So it took me out for just a second. But like I said, all around, it was somewhat enjoyable. Like, I would go to a matinee of this instead of, you know, opening night or whatnot. So I rate my movies based on how much I paid to see it, which I think in this case was $8.50. I'm going to say $7. So $7 out of $8.50. That's all I got to say.